Hello, it's the start of a new week. It's me, Jamie. I'm a family and a psychiatric nurse practitioner, and today I want to talk about what the number one tool that I think is underutilized in online dating or just relationships in general. And I just want to preface this with I was talking to my daughter last night about some different topics with online dating, and she had asked me, she's like, Mom, why are you talking about this? Why are you? And honestly, the reason why I want to talk about this is because online dating is exhausting. And currently, more than 50%, I believe, of marriages end in divorce. And, when you're a busy working parent, a lot of the times online dating is one of the options to consider. And the thing is it's like the Wild West out there. and, and there are no formal things that are going to tell you like what is going to be helpful and what is not. And after being out there for I don't even know how long it was, like 8 to 10 years, like on and off in trying out long-term relationships and having them fail, I got to the point where I needed to figure out what am I doing wrong. Like, I think people are very quick to point out this person did this to me, or this was a toxic relationship, this was I didn't want to run the risk of not being able to identify what a toxic situation was. Or so I studied relationships like crazy, and I have for a very, very long time. Like, psychology is my gig. So I like talking about online dating because that's the reality of a lot of people's situation, and it certainly was the reality of mine. And I found my dream relationship. And if I could help other people get into the same type of relationship that I am, I believe that people are going to be happier. I believe that families will be happier. I believe that communities would be better. I believe that workplaces would be better. So this kind of cover, and the other thing is too, is when you use these skills that I'm about to talk about for online dating and apply them to other areas of your life, you're going to see positive returns. That's just fact of the matter. That's just how it is. Okay. So online dating is emotionally exhausting. I think a lot of times people get their understanding of what a relationship should look like based off of their family that they grew up in. And we might understand the things that went wrong, but as we grow as to an adult and are put in the same situation, oftentimes you're going to see that you repeat the same things over and over again that you saw in your family at home. And you start to realize like this wasn't helpful for them and this wasn't helpful for me. And maybe you realize that some areas are like this was super helpful for them and I would like that aspect, but the way that life is now isn't always the way that it could be. Like, for example, if one parent was able to work from home and take care of kids, now that's not always a possibility. So different things can change up whether or not a relationship's going to be successful. But let's jump into online dating. Like, it is emotional, it is tiring. It requires you to invest some time into talking to other people that you start to realize I no longer want to talk to this person. And so it causes us to get worked up. And then when we get worked up, sometimes we say things that are not necessarily beneficial to ourselves, to others. So what I believe the most underutilized tool is emotional regulation. So let me talk about a way that I learned this that would have been helpful for if a person. So one of my favorite dates with Nathan was our second date because on the first date I thought he was sweet, I thought he was kind, but I didn't feel chemistry, which that's another thing that people get hung up on. They think that, oh, there's not chemistry after the first date. Who cares? That doesn't matter. Chemistry can be built up over time. And then it gets to the point where it's like once there's a spark, it lights on fire. So, but on that second date, Nathan was so nervous, like so nervous. We went kayaking. He brought me a gift. He came out to me. He like apparently he had a picnic lunch packed too that he was too nervous to tell me about afterwards and sent me along the way. But while we were on that date, he was very quiet, like extremely quiet. And I thought I had said something to upset him. And I'm like thinking, what is wrong with this dude? Like, I'm having a good time and I can see that he's not. And my thoughts of what I thought he was thinking in his mind, that maybe I said something offensive because I was talking about my faith and my Christianity. And I'm like thinking, okay, maybe we're just not on the same wavelength anymore. And so be it. That's fine. But I think in the past, I maybe would have been like, what's up, dude? Like, why you acting weird? Or I don't even know. But at the end of the date, we were walking up to his car and we were putting his boats back on top of his car, his kayaks on top of the car. And he looked at me, he goes, "You can go now." And I feel like a lot of people in that scenario would be like, what? Like, and get a little sassy because I was interpreting his actions as he wasn't interested. I was wasting his time. And I'm going to be honest, I was kind of embarrassed and I was kind of like, this dude is weird. But if I would have went off on him, which I don't think I would go off on anyone, but I think I would have maybe been like, you know, thank God that's over. Or, like if I would have made a sassy comment that or a sarcastic remark, I think that would have maybe changed the way that things worked out. And I've even asked him that before. And so anyone who's heard that story before, basically what happened is I got into my car and was just thinking, okay, whatever. I had fun kayaking. We had a good time. I at least had a good time. Apparently he didn't, but next. And as I'm driving home, within 4 or 5 minutes, my phone rings and I answer it wirelessly. And he goes, "Hey, Jamie, this is Nathan. We just went kayaking." And I'm thinking, uh-huh. And hopefully we never have to do that again because it was so uncomfortable and awkward. But then all of a sudden he's like, "All right, look, I really like you. I was going to ask you if you wanted to go to dinner, but you probably already have plans." And then all of a sudden, my thought process, when I originally had thought, this dude doesn't like me, I said something to offend him, this switched. And I was like, oh, okay. I'm a psychology professional and I read his actions wrong. I was wrong. And so I tried to get to the point where I didn't assume anything about anyone. And I tried to get to the point where I was going to have a good time regardless of who I was with. Now, that doesn't mean that I need to ensure that the other person is having a good time, but emotional regulation of yourself involves finding the good in whatever you're in. And so at that time, when he was kind of like, quiet. And I'm like thinking, this dude doesn't like me. I'm not interested. Fine, whatever. I'll be moving on. But I'm like, I just moved to this city not too long ago and I wanted to see this lake. Now I am on this lake and I'm with another person. I don't think that I would have gone kayaking by myself. I felt like, hey, if there was an emergency and I tipped over, I'm assuming he would have been at least a decent enough a person, unless I offended him too much, to like help me out if the life jacket wasn't good enough or all these different things. And I'm just like focusing on, you know what, this water is so clear. This is so beautiful. The weather is nice. I was able to find the good, even though it was an uncomfortable and awkward situation. But the moment Nathan clarified what he was actually thinking, I'm like, oh my gosh, like I actually like this guy. And I think a lot of women can kind of confuse that initial awkwardness or the quiet or as a person who's boring. And let me tell you, Nathan is anything but boring. Has brought probably the most excitement into my life and helped me to realize different things that I didn't even think were possible are possible. And truly is the reason why I am like so inspired to like try to teach as many people some of the things that I went wrong and some of the things I learned. The man inspires me. He's amazing. And there are other men out there like that. And I don't want people thinking, I'm too old. Everyone out there is just sending ridiculous, I'm going to say it, dick pics or they're, just wanting one thing or they just want to. And the fact of the matter is are there some people out there like that? Yes, there are. But it's very, very quick to understand what that type of person is looking for, but what you might be writing off as boring, or just the initial stages of uncomfortableness, or writing someone off because you don't have that first chemistry from your first meeting. I don't even think the first date should count as a date. That is a meeting. That is like literally you're trying to see, hey, am I willing to go out with you again? That should be all you're really looking for on a first date is, am I willing to go out with this person again? And so I've asked Nathan, I'm like, if I would have said something like sassy to you, how do you think that would have changed things? And he even had said, he's like, that would have been a huge turnoff. That would have been, and it would have been a huge turnoff to me too, if somebody would do that to me, if all of a sudden they misunderstood my reactions and accused me of something, or told me I was being rude when really I'm just like, no, I'm just nervous. I would be offended. And so I believe that what people should do, men and women, is focus on emotional regulation. If you're not getting a response back from a person that you thought was interested, don't respond in anger. Like, that's certainly not going to help the situation, but understand that you're allowed to be angry about it. Definitely you're allowed to have whatever feelings you want to have about it. But before you ever act on anything, make sure you do the steps to get yourself in a good place before you even consider responding or, reaching out again. There was a tool that I used to talk to my daughter about. I had heard it somewhere, and I'm sure someone could Google where this was from, but it was called HALT. So, like, it means stop, don't do anything. And the acronym for it was, so the H was if you were hungry, and the A is if you were angry, the L is if you were lonely, and T is if you were tired. And ultimately, it's just saying, before you do anything, before you respond, before you make your next decision, if you are feeling any one of those four things, stop. Stop. Go deal with yourself. Like, take a break. For me, it's taking a hot bath. Like, my hair is still wet. I got naturally curly hair, and I just let this air dry. So my hair is always in some weird stage, it seems, with all these videos. But I ended up adding 2 S's at the end for HALT, is shocked and surprised. So if something's shocking to you, a lot of times our initial reaction to something is maybe not going to be what our reaction would be in a few moments once we are able to collect ourselves, emotionally regulate, and respond in a better way. So sometimes you only have one chance with online dating when you're meeting someone, like, and if you've made the mistake where you've been angry and upset with someone, or like, that doesn't mean that you've missed out on an opportunity. It just means, okay, now I understand where maybe I'm contributing to some of the results that I'm having, and I'm going to like do different next time. So it is all good experience. All of it is good experience. But making sure that you learn to emotionally regulate is going to give you all sorts of different life experiences, whether that's at work, whether that's with your current relationships, like romantic or otherwise, and especially with online dating. So it is very hard to do. However, focusing on your own self-care, focusing on self-love, self-worth, will help you to be able to emotionally regulate. And if it's not something that you're able to do just through like reading or listening to podcasts, sometimes it does take going to a therapist or seeing a mental health professional or a coach. All of those things can be a great investment in yourself, not only with your romantic life, but your life overall. So I hope you're having an awesome day. This week is going to be awesome, and I will see you soon. Bye.